Hello everybody, my name is Cub. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new opportunity for Minecraft, and that, of course, is the Firefly. I missed it. There, the Firefly. There we go. These guys right here. Fireflies are a planned addition to the Minecraft 1.19 update, the Wild update, alongside frogs and the new lights, as well as the tadpoles. They're meant to spawn in swamps at night, which is where we're at right now. We're in the swamp at night. And let me walk you through how I would implement fireflies and why I think that would be quite useful. So, first of all, these fireflies here you see are not actually in the game yet. They're not in the Bedrock nor the Java edition. They are actually just retextured bees. So if I spawn in a bee over here, you see it takes the firefly texture. And yeah, it's just 2 pixels. One sort of light green and one black, and it sort of flies around like this. Now, all mobs in Minecraft currently sort of act like this. They're like individual mobs. If I hit F3 plus B to see their hitboxes, you can see, yeah, each one of these actually has its own individual hitbox. However, I propose that fireflies should be different, because fireflies are, number one, smaller than any mob that's been implemented before. Fireflies are even smaller than the regular size bees, which these actually are. They're just retextured. So instead of having individual mobs like that, instead it should form a cloud of fireflies. You'll notice that this firefly pack here is not really moving at all. Let me just set it to night again. It's just sort of like staying stationary in place. But the fireflies themselves are like free to move around inside of this area. And it's pretty cool if you go inside, like if we go into spectator mode, we can go inside here. It's like you're kind of like surrounded by fireflies a little bit inside of this thing. So it actually feels pretty nice when you're inside of it. So my proposal would be that effectively fireflies, instead of being individual mobs, are just particle clouds, which the player can also interact with. So what I mean by a particle cloud is, for instance, the lingering potion of fire resistance here. If I throw this on the ground, and hit F3 plus B, you'll see this is a literal cloud that you can interact with. Like if I walk into this, you'll see that the cloud actually got smaller because I absorbed some of the cloud effect. And if I walk in further, yeah, the cloud goes away entirely. And so instead of having individual AI that, you can punch individual fireflies like this, like that, it would be a one giant cloud of firefly. So having fireflies as a cloud of fireflies rather than individual mobs has a couple of benefits. Number one, it saves on processing power. So instead of having to calculate AI for each and every one of these mobs and their positioning and have to calculate whether they bump into each other, it's just going to be one big sort of bounding box. Similar to, like I said, the splash potion here. This bounding box, except static and a little bit bigger. Obviously. But it also allows us a unique chance to make new mechanics with the Firefly mob, and that is in the form of the empty bottle. So my proposal with these Fireflies is that you can right-click on the big cloud, like this, F3 plus B, this cloud with an empty bottle, and that gets you a bottle of Fireflies. Now, you might say that's kind of weird, like, is there any other place in the game where that happens? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Let me show you. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in the end dimension, and I hope to get fireballed here, yeah, so I can demonstrate what exactly happens here with the Dragon's Breath. So, here is a Dragon's Breath cloud, and if I right-click it here, you'll see that not only do we get the Dragon's Breath, but we also see the cloud size of the Dragon's Breath decrease a little bit. So you can see if I keep doing this, it'll decrease. And I imagine a similar thing happening with the Fireflies. If you right-click it, you get a Firefly bottle, and the sort of cloud of Fireflies decreases in size every time you right-click it. So given those two mechanics, here's how this would work overall. So first of all, we're in the swamp biome, and let's say it turns to night. So we'll do time set night. Bam. Okay. Nighttime is here. The sun is now setting. The moon is now rising. And so that means that fireflies can now spawn in the swamp somewhere, or in the swamp variant, mangrove swamps, for instance. So the swamp, let's say they do that. The fireflies spawn in. Bam! There they are. Alright, so here what's spawned in here is what I'm calling the big, quote-unquote, big cloud of fireflies. So we can see that if I click on this and turn on the bounding box. So here is the bounding box for the big group of fireflies. Now, the idea is this would be like a permanent thing, and you'd have fireflies just in this region. And there would be other regions, you know, dotted throughout the area, which have this big firefly grouping, right? And so these things are just particles flying around in here that you can not really interact with individually, but you can right-click with a empty bottle on this whole bounding box to get a bottle of fireflies. So let's say I right-click here, bam, right-clicked, this bottle goes away, we now get one bottle of fireflies. But when I do that, the whole bounding box of this firefly cloud, if you will, decreases, and it then turns into this. A little bit smaller cloud of fireflies. So you can see this is the big version. We right-click with an empty bottle, and we now got a bottle of fireflies, and the firefly population has decreased, and the bounding box has become smaller. And presumably there will be less fireflies in there, right? Then, this is sort of like the medium firefly version, the firefly cloud. If we right-clicked again with another empty glass bottle, boom, we right-click, we get another bottle of fireflies, right? And, again, the size of the firefly cloud decreases, because we're gathering fireflies, right, in our bottles. And then this would be the new cloud of fireflies. So this would probably have just a few fireflies like this or so, where we have just a couple of fireflies left, right? And so basically we would then have, if we right-clicked again here, right-click, boom, we now have 3 bottles of fireflies, and the firefly cloud would disappear entirely because we captured all the fireflies. So now we'd have just, you know, blank area again. Now what would be really awesome is if we could go back too, right? So if we could have some bottle of fireflies, and we right-click like on a block somewhere, and if we do that, we get our bottle back. So let's say we right-click on the ground, we lose a bottle of firefly, right? So this goes away. We get our empty bottle back because we put the firefly on the ground somewhere. And remember, these are just particles, so we're not like spawning in a firefly mob or anything. But we add a little bit of atmosphere to our builds by adding fireflies. And then we do the same thing with the other bottles of firefly. We put another bottle of firefly on the ground in this region. It adds to this cloud, and it becomes a little bit of a bigger cloud, right? So then this goes away. We pick up another empty bottle because we deposited the fireflies in this area. And then we do the same thing here. You know, we get rid of our bottle of fireflies by right-clicking, and we pick up the empty bottle instead. And we have the big group of fireflies wherever we want to in the world, which would add just a little bit of life to a lot of builds, if we so desire. So in conclusion, I think that the fireflies as a cloud mob makes more sense than having individual fireflies in the game. It saves on resources, and it also allows the player to move them via bottles through existing mechanics which have already been implemented in some form at least with the Dragon's Breath. And not only that, but this will allow players to move the fireflies to new locations and add atmosphere to builds, similar to like what has happened with the Spore Blossom, which adds particles, as we can see here, around itself in a pretty large area. I'm sort of imagining the fireflies as sort of like this, but with living creatures, with the fireflies themselves. And of course, you can add more Spore Blossoms here to get more intense particles, and it would be the same way with the bottles and the bottles of fireflies to move these guys around the world. Anyways, that is my idea for fireflies. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Be sure to subscribe for more great videos like this. And as always, thank you so much for watching. This has been Cub. Goodbye.